meeting to order.
Commissioner Ashton.
Here.
Commissioner Mano.
Here.
Commissioner Stick.
Present. Is there any public comment before we start? No public, do you have something to say? Do you have something to ask us? Nothing? You don't want to ask us? If you have a project in the future for your Eagle Scout that would be willing to help you? Now would be the time to say that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, guy. I'm just trying to
Trying to help you out.
I see presidential material all over you. You gotta go for it.
Yeah, I'll need your help someday. But I'm Simon, and I probably will need your help for my Eagle project. I would like to do something for, I'll probably do something for our town.
Okay. When the time comes, you come see us, and we'll help you out any way we can.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
Eric Potter, Senate 40 Foster Street. I just want to commend everybody. I don't know who found this, but the expenditures with the website, I'm absolutely shocked. So whoever found this and researched this and did the cost benefit analysis on this, I'd like to commend you guys. $38,000 to run a website in a year. I would do it for you. I would do it for you for 10% of that. So I'd really like to commend whoever, I guess, did it. If you maybe mention who did the
I
research and what have you.
would
when you
suggest
guys-
that you can see there's a new team Jeff is putting together, and everybody's working together, and we're finding out where we can efficientize and do better.
The only thing I might add is, could you possibly talk to the village, looking at the 3 quotes that you've got, and possibly do an intergovernmental agreement with the village's website, American Eagle, and look at the cost benefit of doing the intergovernmental agreement with them, look at the contract that the village currently has, and do a group buy, and then maybe go to the library too, and just do like a whole village-wide, and knock those prices out even lower.
All right, well, I'll have Jeff will look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Administrative and Finance Commission.
Yes, Administration and Finance has 5 items on the agenda for discussion. First is Park District website, second bond expenditure and compliance resolution, third is an intergovernmental agreement with the MG Historical Society, fourth is an update to the general practices manual, and fifth regards strategic planning, community outreach. First item, Park District website. Jeff, you have some info on that?
Yes, so as Kathy came on and just talking about the different elements of her job, I asked her to look into the website just because as I was kind of going through it and noticing that there's things that needed to be updated, that kind of thing, finding out more and more of what we could do in-house versus what we're contractually obligated to go to another vendor for, just realized that, oh my gosh, we spend, like Eric was saying, a lot of money in a year's time just on this. So it's just, contractually we're at $15,000 to host for like 10 hours a month. That is the amount of work that they will perform, and anything outside of those 10 hours is an additional cost to us. So when we take the 10 hours after the 10 hours and making those adjustments, whatever we may need, and then kind of redesigning, that's where we came up with just over the last fiscal year, almost $40,000 in expenses. Kathy told me that there's a much better way of doing this, and I'm like, okay, let's take it to the board. I'm just going to need to know what we spent, what we will be spending, that sort of thing. So she went and got 3 written quotes from vendors and came out with FOCAS Creative Group with total cost of $12,800. So the money that we would spend on this, our current vendor, we would put that back in. So it's kind of a net loss, just a little bit, or actually we save a little bit by switching over. So we're not going to spend any money that we above and beyond what we would normally allot for the website. So contractually, we're obligated to pay them $15,000 a year. Of that, money, $12,800, will be used for a new website. The best part of this is that we will be able to manage the website internally. There's a lot of technical stuff that Kathy was explaining to me that the developer kind of builds it so that they you're kind of forced to go to the builder or the developer for changes. So if we needed to change a word, it costs us then to do it. If we need to change the color of something, it costs us to do that. Right now, we have a little bit of a problem with the Google Maps that's on our website. So you'll see Okido Park on the east side of town. You'll see Mansfield on the west side of town, and it's like you got to fix it. Well, that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you to do that. So, well, their argument is Google made these changes and nobody caught it when they went live. So now, okay. So we just kind of held off on that just so that we can, go in and look at just doing our own website. So.
I have two things. One is I see all the pros of making a change.
Yeah.
Are there any cons of making a change and leaving what we have?
We'll need some redundancy a little bit. So we'll have to train somebody else to make changes to the web. Relying on one person or one developer, if Kathy's not here and we need to put something on the web real quick, she's going to need probably maybe Claudia or myself to be able to do it. But that's not a bad thing for us to learn how to do anyway. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do as well, is just make sure that there isn't just one person that knows how to do something.
And my second is regards to the bidders and the cost of the bid. I mean, it would be nice to see the column cost to maintain a post. That's 1 year, correct?
Yeah.
So any decision I make on this, I'd like to really know the true total cost. Given the nature of the memo, the nature of the memo is that we paid a certain amount of money up front to these other guys that we want to leave, and since that time, the fees we're paying over the course of years. So I would just like to see a comparison in terms of these bidders, the creative group, the web links, I can't pronounce all these names, but the three names at the bottom of the bidders. I would like to see the true total cost that we anticipate, so that a few years from now we're not having the same complaints, that there are unforeseen maintenance costs that were more than we initially thought when we started up.
Yeah, these costs to maintain and host, those are annual costs.
Okay, but I'm saying, okay, so the third one, do you know how to pronounce it? Curie or Curie? Curie?
Let's go,
okay.
yeah.
So if you take, say, 5 years and the cost is 22 and then the maintenance is 15, then they come at 37.
Right, so
You know
let
what
me
I'm saying?
thank you
So
for-
that
I'm sorry.
who the lowest bidder is.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. For that is just the cost, they don't maintain. So that cost in there is just the hosting. The $300 is the hosting.
Okay.
So, yeah, so the FOS group, the FOCOS group, just slightly more, but, Kathy has she's worked with them before, and she's, very comfortable with them. So still, we're saving, it may cost an additional $200 a year to use those.
On the first guy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking over the course of 5 years, the total cost is equal.
Right.
If, because it's $1,000 less to install the Focus Creative Group, but over the course of 5 years, they would be $1,000 more in maintenance. So, okay. So I mean, that's a factor to consider if we're deciding to go with the lowest bidder.
Right.
So you're saying if Focus and web links are tied, there are added benefits to Focus as opposed to web link.
FOCOS. Yeah,
go
not
past.
just the familiarity that Kathy has with it.
So what time frame are you thinking of lasting in an agreement with whoever we go? 5 years, 10, 2 years?
So because it's professional services, we'd still want to stay just 3.
Okay.
3 years, if that's, renewing every, year after that or every 3 years. So at some point where we feel that we're not getting the service that we need from them, the background, the maintenance, the security, then we'll, go out to look for another bid. But at that point, then we're going to spend another, $10,000, $11,000 to have another developer come in and provide us with another website. And hopefully
Right.
this is the one that we just kind of stick with.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out who would be the cheapest over 3 years, or who would be the lowest. I think it would be the odds. All right, that answers my questions. Do you guys have anything else?
I'm rather excited about changing this because we need the tools to do what we need to do. And right now, finding out that you can't change that, update that website readily, it's counterproductive.
Just want to make sure there's nothing we're
No,
overlooking.
no,
given the nature of the-
it is, to me, it's money well spent because it's improving the credibility of the park district and its ability to communicate with the community.
I feel the same way.
The basic information will carry over from this website to the new website, so it just gives us the better flexibility. We'll move that over for approval. All right.
Let's move on to the second item, if we're good on that, and that is bond expenditure compliance. It's resolution number R-06-16.
Right, this is an annual housekeeping thing that we're required to do since we issue bonds. We just to make sure that we are in compliance with the rules and regulations with the IRS, that we're using the bond monies accordingly. And Marty, being the compliance officer, is
So Marty's in charge of that?
he's the compliance officer. But he said we are in compliance. I did talk to Jim Rock, and he did say if Marty says that we're good to go, then we're good to go, and we are.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yes. The third item on admin and finance is the intergovernmental agreement with the Grove Historical Society.
Yeah, so we have had an intergovernmental agreement, sort of not a comprehensive one, but an agreement nonetheless since 1988. And it has been revised several times since then, the last one in 2014. When I came on, we decided that we were going to look at all the intergovernmental agreements and update them. The nice thing of being part of the Park District Risk Management Agency procurement is that they have these templates that we can follow, and we utilize this template and work with Mark Matz with the Historical Society and develop a more comprehensive agreement. Something that we really sort of haven't laid out is like who's responsible for certain incomes with the educational center. So if the Historical Society has an event or a program over there, they now give the Park District any direct costs associated with that, and any excessive revenue goes to them. Or if it is a Park District program, it is 100% of the Park District. It stays within all of it. So in the past, there were some gray areas as to who gets what, that sort of thing. We also laid out in here that they pay for half of the assistant curator, and we pay for the other half. So one of the things that we put in there is to have them fully fund the assistant curator by
2021.
2021. So they've already looked at this. We sent it to Jim Rock, the attorney, who looked over, made some suggestions.
He didn't make the changes.
Pardon?
He already made the changes regarding his, because you mentioned he made some suggestions and I read it, and I was just
Yeah.
wondering if the copy I read was with his suggestions already incorporated
Yes.
into the book.
Yep. Yep. Mark Matz has already looked at it, and he says he's willing to sign it, but since it deals with levying funds and budgets and everything, it was suggested that the park board approve it.
Anybody else? I have some additions and clarifications I would like to see in here.
Sure.
You know, I know the history behind this. When this started, put the building, the Historical Society on Park District property, in, not this room, the other room down there, it was promised it wasn't gonna cost anybody anything, they were gonna take all the cost, the Historical Society. And lo and behold, we are now, 25, 30 years later, and what do we levy for museum tax right now, Marty?
Well, we have a budget of about 50,000. Of that amount, there's a small amount levied, but the most of it's coming from PPRT.
Right. So we're up at $50,000 now for something that wasn't gonna cost us anything to begin with. I'm fully behind the museum, I think it's a good thing, you know, but again, it's a government, intent starts out one way and now we're paying. I would like clarification in this word adjacent land on section 2B, is to provide the following buildings and adjacent land to be used by the Historical Society. Adjacent land to me is very ambiguous.
Okay.
Does that mean they can go into Har Park and do something? I don't know. On C, to ensure adequate interior building conditions by providing heat, water, electric, I'd like the word to ensure and control adequate heat. I think the park district should be in control. We don't need those thermostats at 85 degrees and the air conditioning at 60, you know.
Sure. Good point.
And on F, to provide protection for the buildings by maintaining comprehensive insurance with protection against theft, fire, and injury. When we use the word theft here, it doesn't clarify on this one here that it's not the contents. We are not responsible for the contents of that museum. They're owned by the society. Are we paying for theft insurance for the contents by that same theft?
No, but we do provide alarms.
And how much does that alarm system cost? About $100 a month, or $200 a month,
You
yeah?
know, well, there's two buildings over there,
Yeah.
so we have two alarm systems, or two alarm contracts.
They're less than $100 a month, or together, combining.
A lot of agreements have definition sections,
Mhm.
key terms that could be in different ways. I think should we have something like that for adjacent land and maybe some other terms?
Because we use that same terminology in section 3 on B, to provide present, future collection of accessories for display, use of the museum, education center, and adjacent lands.
Yeah, it's used a few times. That's what I'm thinking, you know, just definition section, it could be, you know, as few as a half dozen words that are important to the agreement, but, you know, could benefit from being precisely described.
Yeah, let me talk to Jim about that, to see maybe that's not necessarily required because it sits on what is just part of.
Right, but I just don't want them to automatically go out and decide they're gonna have an event that's gonna be in the parking lot, and they never even ask us, well, it says we can do adjacent land.
Right.
You know?
Right.
The important thing on this, in any agreement for this entity is to have complete control of the property we own with an outside agency. Also on P, which comes after O, on page 7, all income from museum activities, example, education, children's, or other museum-sponsored events and programs, including the operations of any subsidiary organ, shall be deposited in the Morton Grove Park District Museum Fund to be used to operate the museum. When they have their events over there, that, you know, they had a radio show there.
Yeah.
They charged admission. Does that money go down to the park district?
The direct costs do.
Well, it says here, all income from activities. Are we looking for better clarification there?
Right.
'Cause I'm just reading what it
The same
says.
section uses net the term net income also.
Well, it starts out, all income from
Yeah.
museum, and you're an attorney, you know, most people read
Well,
the
it's
first,
using-
they read the first sentence and that's the paragraph.
Well, this same section uses the term all income in the first sentence, all direct costs in the second sentence,
Right.
and any net income in the third. Lawyer would probably argue that these things must mean different things because when you're using different terms in the same section, there must be an intent that these things
Right.
should be treated differently.
And then on
as
page,
different things.
page 9, section 4, we have a list of what we can do and can't do, no alcohol, there should be no smoking. I would like to add on there that no political activity of any kind should be permitted in the museum. Because it is on public land, and there's no politics on public land, and I think it needs to be spelled out.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they can't have a display on campaigns of some sort, you know, as long as it is not in election time. You know, I know that you got this from my IPD, IPRA,
For Durham.
Derma, so maybe I'm just tightening up.
There is a provision that that all the activities have to be consistent with Morton Grove Park District policies, and we do have a policy against politicking.
No, we do, but
I
I,
think
you
we
know,
incorporated into that provision.
but we've had that issue come up and had to reiterate it with farmers market people too. So I think specifying it out, specify it out so that they signed it, they know it, it's one more thing that we said, hey, you know, no means no.
Sure.
I agree, it is in our policy manual, it is stated in there, but
Anything else?
that's me. Anyone else? What else you got?
On administration and finance, I think we're on the fourth item, which is the updating the general practices manual.
Oh, man, I got a lot of notes.
Well, okay,
Who's
so-
doing all this, updating the
Yeah.
policy manual stuff?
We're just updating the manual to reference documents to almost attach.
Previously
documents we
approved by
already-
the board, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just for distinguished agencies.
Right.
You know, yeah.
I think it's housekeeping, mandatory housekeeping to get distinguished agency, which the board is, unless it's changed, have unanimously voted on to move forward.
Yes.
So I have no problem with doing what we have to do.
Yep.
Because it's all good stuff.
So let me just remind that the investment policy, the comprehensive revenue policy, gifts policy, procurement policy, all, again, previously approved by the board, and most of them last year, but we did have one in 2016. Just all need to be within the manual.
Okay. I don't have a problem with any of that.
All right?
I will say this, though. I think who's ever in charge of this, getting us into distinguished agency, that's a monumental task, and I hope the entire staff is cooperating in its fullest to achieve that. Because it's a really tough thing to do.
But yes, it is quite a task, and
And Marty, I want to thank you for all the time you're spending on it.
No problem.
no, yeah, and it continues to go. So,
I know.
And just so that, let me just put a bug in your ear. So there's a review process. Part of that review process is the board, mostly the president being on site to be able to answer questions and things like that. So sometimes September, October, hopefully September, October, you'll be required. But if you're more than welcome to participate as well, it's a weekday, morning, afternoon. There's site tours. It's quite extensive, but you will be needed to be present.
I'm sorry, did I miss something? Do we have a date set yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Where we are, because we went through the process last year, but because of some bad advice from the prior mentor, we kind of suspended it, and then, so we have a lot of stuff already done that just needs updating, so we can want to be one of the first ones to go, if not the first one to go this year,
Yeah.
which poses a great opportunity for us.
It's gonna be
Which
some-
means you're going this year in January to be up there when we get that award.
If we're getting an award, I'm gonna be there.
Okay, you heard it here now. He's on camera saying it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
No sick, no sniffles, no, I don't care if you got a case in Washington in front of the Supreme Court, I promise to be there.
I don't know, Supreme Court, that might be a deal breaker, but,
Right. So we'll move that on to the regular board meeting as well.
One more strategic planning commission, planning community outreach.
Yes, so, yeah. So we're looking for dates in September to do community outreach. So we have, actually, the first one, it's just an open discussion.
type of dates, multiple.
Yeah, so our first one is actually July 14th here at 6:30, just to get people's feedback on the strategic plans, the initiatives, the goals, the objectives. So it's nice to be able to have this ready, to be able to go to the public and say, this is what we are thinking. If there's something else that we may have missed, that gives them their input.
6:30?
6:30, yes. But we kind of planned this one ahead of time, but we think that probably, not a lot of time to do more in July. August is kind of a dead month, so September.
Can I make a suggestion that we
Yeah.
have, if we're gonna have multiple ones, have them on a different day, like maybe one a weekend day, and then another like a weekend, or weekday night, weekend day, weekday night, makes it so that people, with different schedules, no matter what schedule you're on, you have at least one bite of the apple, if we hold
Sure. Right. So it would be nice to get out into the field houses to be able to do that. Now we're going to have preschool, so in September we'll probably have another one here, one over at National, one at the Palm Room, and then we could do, if you guys are okay with, a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I can just kind of schedule. But if you know any dates in September that you are unavailable, let me know so that I can, plan accordingly.
We all just live for it. Mark lives for it.
I know. So I'll just schedule some dates and pass them along to you and make sure that's okay with everybody's schedule. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to be best.
All right.
And that, is there anything else on, regarding these topics on administration and finance committee?
No, you're done.
Okay, so, good stuff.
I think you've done enough damage.
Probably.
Parks facility, Mark?
Prairie View HVAC controls. Been waiting for this one.
Yeah, so, back in June, we came to the board and asked to update the HVAC controls here in Prairie View. The bad news was that it came in $47,000 more than what we anticipated or budgeted for. So moving some capital around, we found the money. However, it was suggested that staff reach out to an engineer to verify, an independent engineer to verify that there aren't anything that we missed, that it was consistent. So we did that. We went to WT Engineering. Greg met with the engineer, the contractor, who bidded out the controls, and they are all in agreement that everything was inclusive in the bid, and that bid did agree with the TRAN systems analysis that we did last year. The one thing that they couldn't say is, like, once you get in there and start, replacing stuff, that you may discover a faulty switch or something like that. And that's one of those things that you just can't know until you get in there and do that. But this is for the recommendation by the board. It is consistent with the TRAN study, and it is inclusive of everything that we need to make the change over.
Okay, so all the conclusions of that study, that's what we had received before. That hasn't changed.
Right. Yep. So we're just going to ask that the board approve accepting the bid from Honeywell Building Solutions of this plans in the amount of $127,420 to replace the building control systems here at Prairie View.
again, it's non-proprietary stuff.
Yes.
A lot of money.
Good? Good, a yes? Yes, good?
Good. Moving on.
We got TV?
Yes, but it doesn't have the game on. The Dodgers aren't in this area.
Myself.
Pardon?
I was hoping for Garfield Goose.
Okay, so it's been coming on a year for the dog feasibility study. So what I wanted to do was just give you guys an update before I meet with the community again, so that I can get just a feeling from you guys about sort of direction a little bit. So we had the meeting, the board meeting in which we said that we were going to do the feasibility study. We had members of the community come in and attend the board meeting. From those people in attendance, we offered them to participate on the advisory committee, which we had like 7 or 9 people that did that. So we just kind of talked about the roles and responsibilities of everyone on the board, what exactly they're supposed to do for the board, that sort of thing. So from there, we gave everybody on the committee an assignment to go to a local dog park and kind of make notes, what kind of fencing they have, how high it is, the entry system, amenities, features, that sort of thing. We came back and then we compiled all that information, developed a wish list for a dog park. And then we contacted a landscape architect who designed some concepts for us based on a location that the committee thought was reasonable. We thought maybe right at the north end of Prairie View would be a good opportunity. Well, not what I wanted to hit. So, all right, so remember this. This is the first This is the first concept, sort of a basic model. It takes in that north end of that field. It puts a fence around there. There's some mounds, a concrete pad. There's water, some benching, that sort of thing. This plan came in at $335,466. The next one, basically the same kind of thing with a little bit more landscaping and this decomposed granite, which is kind of that crushed, fine trail mix kind of stuff that you see in the forest reserves. And that one was $479,461. And then the bigger model here, again, just more landscaping at $539,000. So we presented that to the committee, and they were I think they were kind of sticker shocked. So what they asked me to do is to look into a different option, sort of a stripped down version of the very basic model. So basically what this does is there's no concrete pad, there's no decomposited granite, there's no landscaping. It basically just puts a fence around the area with water. So if you go out there, just connect the fencing. You'll still have the dugout, you'll still have the backstop. It wouldn't do anything for drainage, nothing. And this model, or this version, came at $97,980. Well, the committee was like, okay, well, how can we get that down even more? So I talked to Greg, because we were trying to figure out what we can do in-house. And based on what is needed, Greg gave a sort of an estimated cost of doing what that basic model is, a stripped down version of $22,190. This does have some assistance with the village, because they were gonna put in the water line for us, that sort of stuff. So that was, a great opportunity to be able to partner with them. But, my struggle is that, we don't have a dog park. We don't have a place for people to take their dogs, and I think they're willing to do or take anything at this moment, rather than kind of think about it in the bigger picture of what is the best thing that we can offer or do for the community. And that's where I'm sort of kind of struggling. At least what, I want to be able to say to them, this is just a fence around a park, around some grass. I mean, this is going to be.
Little League baseball then.
Pardon?
I mean, it's a fence around a Little League baseball then. I mean.
Right.
I'd like to really do a dog park and do one in a cost-effective manner. It would be nice to do something that would really attract people, residents of Morton Grove, but also residents of neighboring communities. I think that's one of the huge things that the park district needs to do. I've said it since I've been here. I mean, if we could get people from other communities, it's not just the direct cost of somebody from Niles or Park Ridge or wherever buying a pass to the dog park. I mean, which is a plus,
right.
But then that person's in Morton Grove and has a chance to glimpse other things that Morton Grove has to offer. So whatever we can do to bring that's one aspect,
yeah.
And then two, there's a safety and sustainability concern for me with the dog park. Also,
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to have, say, a double gate entry.
Right.
That's something most dog parks have for safety reasons.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I'd like to make sure we remove any obstacles, that were there from the Little League park, if we're going to repurpose.
right,
it.
because
So-
that basically let's call it D, because it's a concept D. Concept D is just really a fence around the park. I'm sorry. Nothing of it's still nothing done with the infield, so that's going to be a constant source. It's going to be a constant mess. Especially if you have water in there, I would be very apprehensive about putting water in this area because we don't know what the drainage is going to be like for that. But more importantly, I know just foot traffic and dogs in this area is just.
And that's part of what I meant when I used the word sustainability.
Yeah. It's going to be very
I don't wanna
difficult for us to
destroy the
maintain
properties.
this. Very difficult for us to maintain this. One of the options that they did provide us with, is taking and because this is an acre and a quarter, which the very minimum that you should do is about an acre. In order to turn this all into decomposed granite, is going to add another $100,000 to it. But from a standpoint of maybe the Parks Department, that's like there's no grass to mow. We'd have to probably add more of that on an annual basis. Cleanup's going to be easier. We don't have to worry about mowing and things like that. But my feeling is that the committee doesn't like the granite because of the animals' paws and everything. It's the grass. Grass are sort of nothing. So as you talked about, having an opportunity to work with other communities, Mark introduced me to a gentleman at the annual conference who's from Niles, and they're willing to partner with us to be able to do something like this, but that would give their residents rates to use this. And my gut feeling with the committee is that they're not too keen on sharing. And then it's a bad word to say it. It could, because it's so small that it would, yeah, exactly. So,
I mean, a partnership would be consistent with what I'm saying
Yeah.
about bringing people in. I have very minimal experience in sales, but when I was taught sales, it's have the consumer hold the product. That's kind of where I'm going with having neighboring residents coming, people in neighboring communities coming into Morton Grove. When you set foot in Morton Grove and you have a good experience, it tends to be, there tends to be a second and third visit for various reasons. Some people are talking about restaurants, and somebody recommends a place in Morton Grove. Oh, I've been there. I was at the, that's by the dog park.
Yeah.
And I would, I'd really like to get action going.
Right, but this is a case where we're venturing into an area we've never been before. We're a totally landlocked community. We're trying to make something work, okay? The question here, is it economically feasible for the park district to take this on, seeing that we're already financially strapped with the finances of Oriole Pool? We're trying to satisfy a need in the community, okay? That's great, I'm all for it. I think the dog park's a good idea. But again, you don't drive a Mercedes if you can get by, if you can only afford a Chevy, and that's about where we're at.
I'm kind of at the point where we do the infrastructure the right way, and we add things along in years to come, like increasing the landscaping there.
Yeah.
Just putting a fence around it, like you said, with the grass, it's going to cost us more to maintain that, and keep it up, to replace
Right.
it.
Right, and this is,
And drainage.
I'm sorry, your name is?
Simon.
Simon? So one of the things that we talked about was a little Eagle Scout project that we could do, offer somebody eventually, there's no shading here. That was a big thing for them, you gotta have a shade. So maybe Simon could do a shade structure or something to that. I mean, there's opportunity. So, but if we took this model, as you can see, there's not much difference between the two or the three. So really, take out these mounds and you can save like $50,000, but you put in that composite, the decomposed granite. That's something that you can do later on, but it's that'll just take that out of
And
operation.
that's what I'm looking to do is things later on, but that wouldn't interrupt the dog park either. The berms would be easier to do than putting in the crushed granite at a later date, because you pretty much have to close that park
Yeah.
or gate fence that off temporarily, which ups the cost of that.
Right.
It's not just putting the crushed granite in, it's temporary fencing, and you can't put just snow fence up for
Right.
dogs, so.
Right.
But in order to maintain the turf, we would have to shut down sections of that dog park.
Right.
And it's done in
How do we
other
handle
places
that?
with grass, so that's another way you maintain.
Grow buffalo grass in there. That's what you have to do. You've got to reseed it with a durable turf that's going to continually grow. And the other thing is, what I'm looking at too is, this could be dismantled if it doesn't work.
Yes.
And the other part that I'm looking at is, if it was so successful and it was financially feasible, we then might be able to petition ComEd on the right-of-way for expansion north.
Yeah.
Expansion north, there's open land, if they would let us fence it. But then again, how much are people willing to pay for their dogs to go into a dog park? It's a new area for us.
Right.
And I think that again, I've sat in on a few of these meetings. I think we should be very cautious to tell people, we're experimenting with this, we're trying this out to see where we're at. If it's not financially feasible, then the fees go up to the point where will people still come?
Right. I mean, if you're talking about cost recovery, I mean, you want to do it right the first time, so that you're not putting any more than you really have to. So those annual fees will eventually get to the point, 10,
Right.
15,
And I'm
20
sure as
years,
time
whatever
goes
that-
by, we're gonna have people coming in here wanting more amenities on there.
I mean, there is a point. I mean, if you are going to charge people,
Well, you have to
gotta-
charge people, there's no
Well,
other way.
I mean, you've got to provide a certain level of quality to charge people. I'm just saying, I wouldn't pay to go to a place that's just a fence around Little League Park with no benches. If you can charge $5 maybe, $50. I don't know I don't.
Well, I mean, if you're going with that option, that's just, sorry, Ryan, I should just move this.
Sorry.
That's just gonna be a constant, drain on resources, both, labor and, for materials to just, to keep it up. That, turf is out there is really, it's nice and everything, but when you get, a few hundred dogs over there, of course, in several months, you're gonna get bare spots, you gotta seed it, you gotta fence it off, it's just gonna require a lot of time, and I can tell you, just this, my first summer here, is that just with all the things that we've got the parks crews doing, just staying on top of mowing, can be kind of a task, but, to then throw this in there and say that's gonna be difficult.
Right, I mean, I think we discussed it, any new venture we go into, we've got to look at it as being self-sustaining, because we can't put any more on the plate. Because the plate is overloaded and,
I'm all for it being, whatever we do being self-sustaining.
well, and right, and I don't want to go in to do something either that's going to be counterproductive.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a proponent of dog park for a while, but I mean, you do dog park, you've got to do it right. I mean, that's.
Right, no, I agree with you. I mean, we've come further with this than the park district has in the last 5 years. It's been brought up, and we're finally looking at something. Here's something tangible to look at.
I mean, if we were building, let's say hypothetically, I don't think we're building a third pool, but if people said, hey, I want a third pool, we wouldn't just dig a hole in the ground and throw in water, There's certain things you gotta do if you are gonna do it.
First, we'd have to get some Prozac and tranquilizers for Marty if we were building a third pool.
Right. So, that's where I am.
So
with-
do you have a recommendation?
Not yet, to be quite honest with you, because I'm not really sure where the committee is with their thoughts. Like, again, I kind of feel that it is, we want to park and we'll take whatever we can get. If that means, the option B, I would spend a lot of time convincing them why that's not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think I would go for that.
But, yeah,
It's just not fiscally responsible.
right.
Because nothing's done infrastructure. So again, over the course of that time, it would take us to build it up to option A or whatever it was. You have to shut it down. There's revenue lost at that point, and
Right.
all the additional costs just to shut it down.
That field doesn't have drain tile in it, I don't think, does it?
There's some bridge.
Pardon me?
There's some bridge in the outfield.
There's some in there?
Yeah, so the next steps are to meet with the advisory
Go
group,
back and-
just kind of go and tell them, this is what we were asked us to do, this is what we've done, what do we want to, how do we want to approach this? Because we've talked about funding numerous times with them. We've had a good conversation about referendum versus, other different options. The other thing that I'd be doing is a business plan, depending on the option that we're kind of choosing from, and then prepare a recommendation to the board. Is it feasible? Yeah, obviously, we all know that it's feasible. We have the location. It's just a matter of, now would be funding, how we're going to do it.
When is the next, it's on one of the weekly updates, but I don't have it in front. Can you just remind me if you know offhand when's the next dog park?
Yeah, we had a few people could not attend, was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago, so we'll schedule one for the end of July. So hopefully after that, we're probably thinking of at least 6 months before we present something.
Okay.
All right.
Oriole pool reconfiguration, Mark. What are you doing over there?
Yeah.
Holy.
So I just wanted to be able to respond in a meeting, some of the things that the gentleman presented at the last board meeting as to the reconfiguration of Oriole pools, the main pool. So one of the big things that we did versus last year is we cut down the number of lap lanes in the main pool from 4 to 2, and we kind of pushed one of them north to give more of an open area for open swim. So just as, you know, all of my years of aquatic experience, you know, it's just, that's such a luxury to be able to have 4 lap lanes, especially when you have an activity pool and a main pool. Because when I was out there and observing that, you know, there was the 4 lanes, but then there was this little section that was probably like 6 by 12 or something, that's where people went to enjoy the main pool. It's like, to me, it just didn't make sense. And, you know, the main pool is 4,800 square feet of surface area. The activity pool is 4,100 square feet. But there's 500 people capacity that you can have in the pool. So that, you know, it's 50-50. You're going to put 250 in the activity pool and 250 in the main pool. But if you have 4 lanes of swimming, that's at the most 8 people. So it just didn't make any sense to me. You know, it takes a lot of stress on the lifeguards, keeping people out of the lanes. Puts a lot of stress on them in the activity pool because you have you know, toddlers, adults, all in that activity pool, and it can be quite a nightmare from a lifeguard perspective. Just that so many people in such a small area, especially when you have lily pads and sprayers and things like that. Circle, walk thing, it just didn't make any sense. So he asked if we received public input before we reconfigured the pool. And, no, we did not, although I did talk to staff who said that that's been an issue, and it's just more of a common sense approach to facility management that I didn't really see a need to ask the public. They did indicate that the Board of Park Commissioners promised 4 lanes of lap swimming at all times. Claudia and I went back through the minutes, did not find any indication that 4 lanes were promised would be there available at all times. I did talk to an aquatic supervisor who did it 2 years ago, and when the pool opened, she was told by a commissioner to have 4 lanes, but gave no reason as to why, and not to question them. They just put out 4 lanes. So
The pool was designed for 4 lanes.
6 lanes. Yeah. So,
So they built the pool just for people to lap swim.
yeah, that's not why.
Well, not necessarily
Yeah,
all the time.
Not all the time.
There is availability for 6 lanes, I think.
Right.
Is the idea.
And they had a swim
It-
team at the time too, so it made a little sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to
But use different hours.
But
not-
to go ahead and say you're gonna maintain 4 lap lanes at all times, and you've got 300 kids standing on the sideline watching there, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
Because we have a
Yeah.
swim team now there in the morning, and then they pull the lanes out. and
Right.
Yeah.
it's open swimming.
Yeah.
And I think that was the idea behind it. The 4 lanes could be, but at different hours, maybe not during peak hours, right?
Right. So he did also question the placement of the lifeguards and especially the amount of swimmers. We're required by code to have 1 lifeguard per 2,000 square feet of swim area. So we have enough lifeguards there on staff because of the way the pool is designed. There's blind spots that we can't do just 1 or 2. We have to have 3 lifeguards out at all times. But that's a responsibility of the managers. If they see that there's more people over there, they'll put out a roamer, or maybe 2 roamers. It just depends on the activity that's going on in the pool. So they do have a little bit of discretion. Generally, they have to keep at least 3 there at all times. So, but he did make some really good points that we're going to look into over the winter, just like when we put in more. Maybe an hour of lap swim somewhere in the schedule besides first thing in the morning, 5 a.m. We'll look at that. you know, we'll do a product survey that will go out to all the members to get their input on what we could do differently, those types of things. So that is a possibility. You know, we talked about, you know, the difficulty of not being able to get out of the pool, so maybe we have to drill new holes for ladders. That's a possibility, but we'll have to look at the cost of that to make sure that everything is good. So, but he did have some very good points that we'll look into for next year.
Okay. General discussion. Do we have an executive session?
We do.
I make a motion to go into closed session in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, section 120/2C11, and for section 120/2C3, beginning after a 7-minute break at 7:35 p.m.
So he's got something.
Unless there's a
Sure.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Oh.
Commissioner Mano?
Aye.
Commissioner Castro?
Aye.
Commissioner Stafford?
Aye.